Hey guys, this video is going to be showing you how to hook up your power source for an amplifier for an aftermarket audio system. This is a 2014 GMC Sierra, but it'll work, I'm guessing, on a Silverado quite similarly. Probably 2014 and 2015 models. So first thing you need to do is figure out where you want to come through the firewall to get your wiring to your amplifiers. Obviously you're not going to mount your amps in the engine compartment. That's just not feasible for water and heat reasons. So I've found the best place to go through is a little grommet on this side. This is the driver's side, and you can kind of see it there. I'm going to get closer. Hold on. It's this grommet right here. Goes right through the firewall. And there's even an open, it's almost like a perfect spot to use. It's just a little rubber barb that you can cut a little hole in and put your power cord through. It's probably the size of a 4 gauge or maybe even a 1 or 0. I don't know. It's pretty big. I mean, you can get a 1 and 0 through it, I'm pretty sure. I'm adding just a small sub amp, so I'm having 8 gauge power wire. It'll be plenty big for me. You'll have to see what you think your wire would go through. So this goes right into the cabin, and you can route your wires. There is an OEM wire. You can route it right along this guy, and it'll go, put some lume on yours. It'll go right across the engine bay to right over here, which is your battery. And there is a distribution block on the battery with a couple open there is one open lead on my truck, at least, but it is fused. I don't know if you can read it. It says 125 amps. So I mean, I guess you could put it on there, but when you can go all the way to the end to this guy, which is right to the battery, it's probably the best. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run my power wire through here. You might need to cut a little hole for your power wire to come through on here, as well as on the back side of this cap. I think this part gets in the way, so you might have to cut a little half circle in there somehow with a Dremel or snippers or something like that. But then you could just route it, like I said, right along the back of the firewall. Along this guy, you can use zip ties and some plastic lume, and it'll basically look factory. It'll go right over there to that hole that we were just looking at. So once you do that, you need to figure out where this goes on the inside of the cabin. Now this is where you need to do a little bit more work. So it would be nice if that grommet came through without being obstructed on the inside of the cab, but unfortunately it doesn't. It is going to require just a little bit of work. Nothing too detailed, but I'll show you what's going on down here. And I apologize for the shakiness of it. So here is underside dash of the inside of the cabin. This is a distribution block. There's usually a panel on it. You can just remove the panel so you see what you're looking at here. This distribution block is basically right in front of that grommet. So you need to actually move it just temporarily. You don't have to relocate it. That would be impossible. You just have to loosen the bolts on it and get it out of the way just for a little bit while you pull your wires through. So there are 3 bolts holding it, or nuts holding it on. They're, I believe, 10 millimeter. I'll verify that in a minute. But there's one here, one there, and one there, up there in the top. So once you get those bolts out, there really isn't that much play with this thing. Enough to just get your hand back behind there and feel the rubber grommet, and then you can feel your way to your power wire. It's going to be tight, and probably you're going to use some choice wording, but I've got pretty big hands, and you're going to have to go back around like this so that you can. There's the grommet. So try to focus a little better. It's right there, and that's where you have to get your hand up to pull it through. So after fighting with it a little while, there's this little flap on the inside of that grommet, and you need to take this out to get your wire through. Now, whether or not you'll be able to get this back in, I don't know. You can try. I haven't tried yet, but it was a bitch to get out, so I imagine it's 2 bitches to get it back in. So once you do that, you can pull your wire through relatively easy. I'm going to pull mine through now. Another little tip for you, once you get that wire through, you can throw a little zip tie around the edge of that barb to kind of hold it tight. I am going to throw loom over this, and then the loom will go over that as well, so it'll give it even more protection. So there you go. So here is where I'm at. I got the distribution block mounted back. I got my wire through, just loose right now, coming out. I also spent some time in the engine bay cleaning up that and mounting my fuse box. So you can see this is the power wire coming through that grommet, and then I have it running along the back end wire loom. You couldn't tell if you weren't looking for it, that it comes up right here. I have it mounted to my fuse box, and then obviously don't plug anything. I don't even have my fuse in there yet, but that'll go nice and easy right here. So that's what I've done so far. Next is getting your power wire from here to where you're going to mount your amp, which is presumably in the back somewhere. So these side panels pop up. I've done it before. They're relatively easy. So you just need to, if you have mats, you need to move the mats, and then these just kind of pop up out of place. These side ones might be a little more difficult, but you might not have to take them off. You might just need to remove the weather stripping to get the wire back, and then once you're on the other side, you might be able to just fish it through. So I'm going to take off these kick panels right now. So once you take those panels off, you have a nice big channel that you can run your wires in all the way to the back. You're going to have to fish them through this, because I don't know how hard this panel here is to take off, but it should be not that difficult. You have to pull the weather stripping out. You'll get a little more room, a little more workspace, I guess. Same with over here. You can, once you pop that panel out, you can see the nice channel right here along. And then once you do that, you can get back behind here, and you can get your fingers back and fish your wire, and it'll come out basically right there. So now you can see I have my power wire running in this channel. I also ran my remote turn-on wire. I gave myself some slack because it's just going to connect to a fuse in that distribution block. I'll get to that eventually in this video. So yeah, it just runs back here underneath. You got to fish it through the B panel or the B pillar. Then it comes through here, and then you can partially pull this one back, and then you can fish it around the back side there. So I'm just going to throw these back on, and then I think remote wire is next, where that's going to be hooked up. Now the next step of this is getting your remote accessory power, your remote wire to turn your amps on and off when you put the key in. This is so your amps don't stay on all day when you're not in the truck. Now, underneath the dash, there's this fuse block that we were playing with before. All the way to the left, there should be an open one. If not, you're going to have to find something different. Most trucks I've seen so far have this. So there's 2 rows of pins there on the left and the right. You're going to want the left row, and it's the 3rd pin down. It's actually called number 8. And I'm going to try to point to it. It's not the top one, not the second one, it's the 3rd, that one right there. And all you really need to do is take your remote wire, put a little terminal on it, and a really small pin. And there you go. And now your amps will turn on and off with your key. And this is how I plan to mount my amps. So you can see here, I'm sorry it's dark. I'm going to try to hold some light. Here's my sub box, and I have my my line out converter mounted there. But I wanted to show you how I'm going to mount my amp before I actually put this one in. So this is just a piece of about 1/4 inch plexiglass I had laying around, and that's 3M double-sided tape on the bottom. And you can see I have my I have some bolts flush mounted inside here. So basically what I did for this, and I'm doing the same for my amp, is I lifted up the carpet from the back. I had to cut a little bit just to make it easier to work with. You can barely tell. You won't be able to when I'm done. And I cut the holes where the bolts come through and poked them through, and then mounted my my equipment right to it. It makes for a really solid, mounting point, and I didn't have to drill any holes in anything, which is nice. And I was test fitting yesterday and had the actual seat in here. So this is going to be where my amp's going to go, and this is where this goes. And this is a nice channel, and it'll get a little bit of airflow, so it's not all cooped up. And it'll be close to the Bose stuff to hook up to this and however else. But I wanted to show you. So this is going to go basically right here, just underneath the carpet, and it'll stick. Once I remove the backing on the 3M, it'll stick to the metal. Here's a little better angle. Once this is it mounted, I've got it mounted back there, so I'll just mount the amp right to there. Alright, so I got everything wired up. Here's my line out converter. A little overkill for my purposes, but I like audio control stuff, so I decided to use this. I'm using a JL Audio HX300 monoblock amp for my sub. I'm just putting in a sub, nothing big. I've got all my power wires and things running this way. I've got a bass control knob wire run along with my power. My remote wires back there somewhere you can see, and it all runs, and it comes up here. I got some stuff wired under the carpet, so it looks kind of nice. As far as getting your signal, you need to tap in to the Bose output, and I'm going to try to do this the best I can. And I've got it done using posi taps. And if you have the Bose system, you can just, there you go. It's the connector all the way to the right on the amp, and there are a fat blue with a stripe and a fat gray with a stripe. Black stripes on both. The blue is the positive signal for the sub, the OEM sub, and the gray is the negative signal for the OEM sub. So all you gotta do is tap into those, and that's your signal. Piece of cake. If you want to do a little more elaborate of a system, you're gonna have to figure out which one of those wires are the doors and whatnot. So this runs to my audio control, and I just basically split the wires into 4 so that I had a full set of channels coming through. I have my RCAs going to my amp, and this wire right here will eventually hook up to my sub, and then I'll have my sub box basically right where I'm sitting. So that's it pretty much.